Listeners. We are back. It's been a hot minute. I do know you've missed us, and we've missed you. But we've had a pretty entertaining last 3 weeks. Very busy between trying to ship features and trying to kind of reach out to the community, which we did in the last couple weeks. But first, I want to introduce a guest who's with us today. Thomas, how you doing?
I am very well. How are you?
I'm better. I'll say that much. I've been a little tired all week, but I'm glad to be sort of like back in my spirits and whatnot. Um, I mean, Thomas, introduce yourself to the audience.
Hi, yeah, I'm the product manager for Web Page Test, and hopefully, I get the opportunity to talk to you today about our new web performance monitoring tool within the Catchpoint portal, which utilizes Web Page Test power and metrics and data to give you an out-of-the-box monitoring experience. So, very excited to be able to show you that today, and also talk with Henry a bit about some of the things we've been up to, such as being at Performance Now. That's one of the reasons you're probably tired. Uh, was a few time zone switches.
It was. I mean, let's get into Perf now very quickly.
Yeah.
For those who may or may not remember, in the weeks leading to our little break, I was mentioning that the entire web pitch test team, or the majority of it, was going to be over at Performance Now, a web performance conference that we sponsored. That many, well, few of us for sure had attended in the past, and certainly knew about. But we were able to send like 8 or 9 of us down there, and it was pretty awesome. Sold out conference, um, amazing talks. Anyone in particular you like, Thomas?
I liked in general. There was a couple of people that spoke to some very detailed metrics on sort of just how to break down certain types of charts and uh, some of the data and overall the conversation about, well, there's not one metrics that solves it all, right? It depends on what your situation is, how you're trying to speed up your site, you know what your company needs to do. And as far as if you're putting third party data on there, you can't always just take it off. If your marketing team needs to gather that information, how do you kind of push that all together? And I think a lot of the talks dovetailed into each other, where it felt like they had all gotten together and say, okay, we want this general theme. We'll work together toward, especially the first day. It felt like it was a group of people that had sat together and said, here's kind of the theme of the day, and we're going to work through that from the start to finish. And it was great how that worked.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout outs to the organizers, PPK, the whole crew. God, too many to name. But that was the power of curating, or curation, should I say. Being able to sort of like gather some talks and put them in a particular order that really tell a story. So you're absolutely correct there. I mean, so many people we got to hear from, some we hadn't seen in a while. So it was good to hear from them as well. Shout outs to Andy Davies, who doesn't speak a lot now, but definitely comes out for Performance Now. And he actually even tweeted he was ready for next year already. But yeah, you're absolutely correct. There's so many great talks. I'm trying to think of like some of the
I like
ones that really,
Tammy's talk was really good, I thought.
yeah,
She
Tammy,
spoke on the first day. I mean, the MCs were great.
they were,
Henry was
and
one of the MCs on the second day. He was they did questions and answers at the end of the every session, which was also great. I mean, they took audience questions and answered a few. Every single speaker was managed to do that. I thought that
yeah.
was awesome.
Yeah, it was really good, and we also had shout outs to the Google team who helped organize it, but we also had the performance help desk that was really cool. So people got to sit down with some experts throughout the day to sort of answer some questions, get some feedback. Just curiosity piqued, go speak to someone. So that was nice to see people like Paul Irish were there, who I hadn't seen in years. But as well, members of the team. Tim hosted day one. Stoyan spoke. Scott Gell was there. Was also a one of the people who one of the persons who were at the help desk. So the team was well represented. Man, we gave out T-shirts. Oh, how could I forget the night before the meetup? And that was kind of like, again, a celebration of individuals getting together, and the people that attended the meetup may not have gone to the conference, but certainly people from the community came in and watched. I think it was like 5 lightning talks, and then we had like the game show, the quiz, which was really cool. um, it was great. It was a great week, and we got to meet for the first time.
Yeah.
Hello. So welcome to post pandemic, well, post sort of like pandemic related events,
Yeah.
where teammates are meeting
It was
finally.
nice. I also got to meet one of our teammates from Italy that I hadn't met before.
Exactly. Shout outs to Claudio.
Yeah.
Funny guy, you
Yeah.
know. But that was great. But let's not spend too much time reminiscing. We can get into. We might write a blog post about it. Actually, we're just waiting for a few videos to sort of like appear, and we can sort of like expand on exactly what happened. But as we had mentioned a few weeks ago, we came out and I think it might have been a blog post, but we certainly do have a blog post now. Perfect. So we introduced some website, pardon me, performance monitoring using web page test, and that's in fact why we wanted to make sure that we had one of the principals on this project, Thomas, to come in and sort of talk about that. And I think we may have squeezed out a few sort of mentions on LinkedIn and a few mentions on Twitter. We invited Thomas to sort of come through and give us a little bit of a demo and explain exactly what we're doing to sort of like power the very bit of information that you've seen from web page test into the Catchpoint portal.
So,
So real quick, but before you get started,
yeah.
if anyone's got any question in the chat, definitely let us know. You can post in the chat, and we'll try to get to it as soon as possible. But with that being said, Thomas, the stage is yours.
All right. I know that the audience here is primarily web page test users, so a lot of this stuff will look familiar, but let me introduce the Catchpoint portal a little bit first. So the 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 Catchpoint portal provides a monitoring solution beyond just website performance monitoring. I mean, that's the new part of it. The existing part of it allows you to do network monitoring, uh, so that you can monitor your uptime, you can do BGP testing, you can test different nodes in different locations. So one of the ways and one of the reasons Catchpoint bought Web Page Test and thought that these two products would fit together so well is that you take the case where you might have your SRE who's monitoring your network and your performance and gets to a point that is looking at there's nothing wrong with the network, but our website is performing poorly. So that is something that the Catchpoint portal could have done before web page test was involved. And
Mhm.
now, when you get into that situation, you can hand it off to your development team and say, now utilize these tools and figure out why that website is not performing well. And that's what we've provided in the portal today. So you can all the way up to the point where you can figure out that nothing's wrong with any particular location or node or CDN or anything that is causing that problem upstream. You know that it's something specifically that's performing to your website. We're providing you the tools to troubleshoot that now. So what you're seeing here on the screen is what's called the smart board. So this is the main dashboard that you will be provided with out of the box to see the results of a web page test within the portal. I'm going to show you that first just as a teaser, and then I'm going to jump into, oh, how do I set one of these up? What data does it return to me? And then we'll walk through all the different places that you can actually see some of these results. So
Mhm.
um, I'm going to jump over to here first. This menu on the left-hand side gets you to many of the locations within the portal. The first thing I'm going to do is select this tests, and this is where I can build out new tests. Now, these new tests are put into different product folders. This one's just called product, but you can name them whatever you want. If I select that, and then I select this new button, I'm going to build a brand new test. So as I said, there's a lot of other network monitoring tools and even some web site monitoring tools that are already out of the box with Catchpoint Portal. And that's why I see multiple test types listed here. But the brand new one here that's called out is the web page test type. And the important thing to note here is that we're utilizing webpagetest.org technology to actually, it's the same data just brought into this portal for your ability to display it different and monitor it over time with out of the box charts. So let's walk through it.
Awesome.
So if I go ahead and select that, it allows me to build a new test. Again, it's asking me the location I want to put it in. And then there's a couple things to do. It's kind of like building if you choose more of a custom test within web page test as opposed to just typing in your URL and going from there. If you want to do some of the advanced settings, that's what you get a lot of in here. So I give this thing a name, whatever I want. If I want to give it a further description, I can do that as well. Active means that this test will run from the moment that I save it. And then I choose a time frame as to how often, from what day to what day do I want this test to run. So let's say I want to run it from today until the end of the year. I can just, it pre-selects today, and then I can just go out to the end of the year. And then we'll just call this till the end of the year, whatever you want, because you can have multiple tests. The more you label them and explain them, the easier it is for future you to understand what past you was talking about when they put that test together. So till the end of the year.
Proper commenting, folks. We know what that's like.
Because you always think, oh, I'm going to remember exactly what I
Yeah.
did, and then 3 months from now, you look at it, you're like, who wrote this? Oh, that was me.
Exactly.
I should
Absolutely.
have
You're
put a
like, oh
comment
my
in.
God. Exactly.
Right. So the next thing, you can have multiple URLs, but we'll add our first URL. So let's say we want to test whatever the page name. So we'll put that in. Index and label, because you can have, say you have 100 tests and you want to filter on your screen to find specific test types. So maybe you have like 4 home pages or 3 login pages that you want to test. You can label them and index them. These are customizable, but they're sortable and searchable once you get into the main screen if you set those up.
Awesome.
And then if you have any authentication that you need to utilize on that page, you can just say, okay, well, let's say we had basic authentication. I need to put a name and a password to get into that site. Then I can enter it here, and it will inject it into that site when you go ahead and run this test. In this case, let's say we don't have that. And then devices. These are the same devices that are available in web page tests. So you have the same group of network devices, mobile devices, and tablet devices. So these are the emulated devices that are available. The real devices, as of uh, the first release, are not available for testing within this portal. It's just the emulated ones. So let's say we want to do maybe a desktop Chrome, and then we want to add one more device. We just select it again, and it allows me to do that, and it shows me here on the list what those devices are.
Excellent.
And then I get to targeting and scheduling. So I've already specified the dates that I want it to run from. How often during the day do I want that test to run? So I can run it once, twice, every hour if I want to run it every hour. I could also set the time zone so it's more clear as to which time zone I'm doing. So if I leave it at UTC, for instance, and then say I want to run it once at 3 to 4 a.m. UTC, and then add one more scheduling window, say in the evening. Sorry, my mouse died, so there we go, it's back. I was trying to use my touchpad and it wasn't playing along. And once more. So then I'm running now every day, 2 times a day. I can choose the default 3 tests per run, just like in web page test, or I
Mhm.
also have 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. I have those. I mean, we tend to recommend 3. That's why we put it as a default. And then the nodes, where do I want to run it from? And this list is directly analogous to the list that you will see within web page tests. So for instance, if I said I want to run it from uh, this Ireland node and one in France, and I can select down to the very specific item if there's multiple nodes at that level, or I can select at the top level and then it'll do all the French ones. I
Nice.
apply that, you get a list of all the ones that you've selected. And then the final thing, something that you won't find in the advanced options of web page test, is the ability to select alerts. So basically what I can do here is set thresholds on specific key metrics. So if I've got performance budgets that I have to meet, I can say, okay, anytime it exceeds this threshold, warn me. If it exceeds the second threshold, then send me an alert. And the alert can take the form of, you'll see it on your dashboard, but you could also get it via email so that you get directly alerted to a group of people. So let's go ahead. There's a couple options here: inherit, and add override. In the
Hmm.
very beginning, when I was setting this up, it put it into a particular folder. You could have the same alert set for an entire folder, so you don't have to do this every single time you set up a test. Because we're doing this from scratch, let's choose override, and then I can go ahead and add one. So if I add an alert, it brings me to this page. So on the left-hand side, you've got a list of all the alerts. So let's say we wanted FCP, we wanted an alert on that for a specific time frame, right? So I have a couple choices. If I want a specific value, for instance, I can choose how many milliseconds I'll get my warning. So let's say we anything over 250, I'll get a warning, right? And then critical, maybe it's 1500. I don't know,
Hmm.
right? And then we can set that. The other thing that we can do is set conditions. So maybe if we got an alert every single time it did that on one run, we would be bombarded with a bunch of data that's noise and not really useful. But let's say um, that if 30% of the runs are returning that result, that's a significant. That's statistically significant, and we want to know. So you can do that. You can make it so instead of just doing it every single time it triggers the alert, it has to trigger the alert a certain number of times or a certain percentage of the times, and that's really useful because then you'll see when it's trending toward failure as opposed to it just a single point in time failure.
Mm.
So that's really
Here's a quick
nice.
question. Is there a particular metric that, well, I mean, I'm assuming we can pick the metric that we want to be alerted on. But is it a set group of metrics or is it one that we can actually customize?
It's a set group of metrics. I mean,
Mhm.
basically what you're seeing on the left-hand side is the complete list that are currently available for alerting.
Got it.
Yeah. So once I'm done with that, I can just apply it. Now it's set to my testing, and then I'm ready to go. That's pretty much what you do to set up a test. Like I said, if you wanted to group together multiple pages in a single, so like if I wanted to have my checkout page as well as my home page, I could just go ahead and add a URL and add that, and then it groups it together in the same test. And that's
Hmm.
that's that's how you set one up. And once one is set up, they are available in several different places. I mean, the portal has a customizable dashboard called Explorer. All of these metrics that we built into the tool are available there. But then there are some out of the box dashboards that are available. That Smartboard, I'll go back to there. I teased that in the beginning.
Hmm.
Um, this is one of the main places. So I've got alerts set up on this particular test against the Catchpoint homepage. And I've got the alert set really low because I wanted it to trigger the alerts. And you're
Hmm.
seeing them in this alert widget window here, right? And that's one place that you'll see the alerts. And like I said, you'll also get emailed if you specifically put together a contact list of who gets contacted if over 30% of the time one of these triggers.
Hmm.
Um, Across the top, I see the source. This is the specific test that I'm looking at. I've got a filter for time frame. I can choose some pre-selected ones, or I can just choose the calendar. So if I wanted to do the last 2 months, the last 2 weeks, the last 2 days, whatever I want is available within this filter. And then for any of these, I can filter by, if I've got multiple web pages, filter by page, filter by device, and filter by the node. So this is looking at all devices, all nodes right now, all pages, and showing me that. And then I see some key items on the bottom to get an overview of my metrics. So I can see core web vitals, and based on the coloring, the score of those as a mean. So it takes all of these peaks and valleys over time, gives you the mean score. And if that mean falls within the recommended good, needs improvement, or poor, then you'll see the color corresponding to that. The same thing
Hmm.
with lighthouse scores. You'll see that as well. And this is, I mean, it's something that's clearly been available in web page tests for quite some time, but within the Catchpoint portal, the ability to do lighthouse scores and chart them over time is a brand new feature with this test type.
Nice.
This gives you the overview of the lighthouse categories, but if you want to see the detailed lighthouse page, if I hover over this, you see that choice there, lighthouse scores. If I select that, it brings me to this page and it brings you to the lighthouse detailed so that you can see all the information that's behind it.
Hmm. Hmm. Now, at any point, just like you had hovered over it and gotten to a lighthouse page, I believe there's a way to sort of take that same information or some of the information and take us to a web page test result page.
Yeah, I will get to that,
Oh,
but
sorry.
there is absolutely a way to link out to web page test if the when we get to where I'm showing the waterfall, right? There's a
Oh,
thing
okay,
called
got
the
it.
records page, and I'm going to show that in a little bit.
All right.
From
I'll get
that,
I'll get off my horse.
from the catch point waterfall, if you want to go to the more familiar web page test waterfall, we give you that option.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah. So asset performance just breaks down the different assets of the page and shows you the total bytes that have been loaded. And then customizable is kind of a combination of the first three, but lets you pivot it and select specific items the way you want. So you can do a column by device and then uh, show a specific metric for that device, or you could also choose a metric by a specific time period. So it just gives you a little bit of customizability in the final tab here. But I think some of the real power of this is there's different tabs up top, and I'm going to open up the first one, and I think that's where you really start to see uh, some of the value of this. So I'm going to change this to be like the last 3 days and then go. I want to show this film strip view, and it's here. No,
Hmm.
I'm wondering why the film. Anyway, this page right here shows you over time. It groups together a bunch of the different metrics into categories such as visual display, web vitals, load times, and then shows you that running over time. So let me. I wanted to actually go from November 1st to like there. Let's go. In that process, it also loads the latest film strip, so you can see visually how that page is loading. You have the same filtering options as you had on that main page. You can filter by page, by device, by node, and you see all of these different great metrics: render start date, speed index, largest contentful paint, page load, CPU time, and your lighthouse scores all tracked over time. Um, and very clearly, you can see if a trend started where the performance degraded against a specific metric, you could see that you might have a problem. Like especially if on this time we had a build, and look at that. Look at we
Yeah.
had an improvement. We were seeing a degradation of our performance time, and after that build, we really did affect our visually complete time, and that's what we were hoping for. Like you can see that kind of trend over time.
Awesome, awesome. And I do remember, I mean, this is one of the benefits of getting together over at Perf Now, speaking to some, I mean, web page test users in general, and trying to get their feedback on tooling that they're using, and they've always said that the film strip numero uno. They always loved the idea of being able to just like have the film strip and just kind of like show it visually to persons who may not be as well versed in this whole space, right?
Yep.
And as well, just anything that's visually informative, like everything that we see on this page right now. These are things that some engineers like yourselves and the rest of the web page test team know how to parse. But someone like from potentially the marketing team might be like, okay, what's going on here? Who are like slightly versed in perf, but they don't get into the details. This is something that is absolutely crucial.
Yeah, I mean, with that, if you need to show these visualizations to other people, you can go ahead and this three dot menu over here, it gives you a bunch of different options to export and get these out of the portal, which your whole team may not have access to, and
Hmm.
into presentations or Excel or whatever you need it to be, so that you can utilize this data to make your point.
Awesome, awesome,
Yeah.
super important.
Um, The assets tab just breaks down the different assets of the website and like the total bytes loaded, the total number of HTML elements that are loaded, the different scripts that are loaded, any blocking CSS or blocking JavaScript. And then it actually highlights all those different items so that if you see that one is performing badly and you want to figure out which one that is. So for instance, if it's an image, you can click on the image and see specifically what that image is. And you
Hmm.
can do the same thing if it's a chunk of JavaScript and you want to see that script, there it is. I mean, that's
Hey, have fun.
and you can dive into it. Like it's right there, right at your fingertips to say, why is that the one?
Yeah, 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 exactly.
And then I talked in the very beginning about third party elements and how you really like to see how they affect your page performance. And this gives you three major graphics at the top that shows you the percentage of those of uh, of main thread execution, transfer time, and transfer size that are third-party elements. So this is saying like 67% of my total performance for main thread execution is actually third-party elements for this site. So, maybe I knew that beforehand. Maybe breaking it down actually gives me some insight. And I can see that also charted against my first party performance. So these are all my native elements versus
Mhm.
all the different third party. And it calls each of the ones out so that you can see exactly which ones, how much CPU time they're utilizing, how many bytes they're loading. You get all that information so that you can break down if it's a brand new third party. At the very least, you can talk to your marketing department and say, was this your intention to slow our website down by half?
Exactly. You just
Probably not.
you,
Is it how crucial is it? Let's rank the priority of this versus this our site speed.
absolutely. And I've mentioned this before in the past, folks. Um, we understand that third parties are necessary. It's about sort of like managing their impact. It's understanding what they're going to do to the page and relaying that information to the team in charge. And I'll give you a quick example. I've mentioned this person quite often in the past, but Zach Tolman, who at one point, I'm not sure he still does, but worked at a major publisher. And he talked about not barging into the office and asking the team to strip everything out. It's more like, how do we work with this? Which one is crucially important? Because here's what's happening to the performance of the page, and we want to make sure that all parties are happy. So this is absolutely welcomed information and data.
The next tab just gives you sort of a slightly pivoted view of the same things that we saw really on the web page tab. As
Mhm.
opposed to seeing all your graphics across specific devices, this breaks down a single graphic for a single device, specifically for a single node. So you can really sort of isolate what problems you might be seeing. And just like a lot of the pages, it gives you the latest desktop view. It breaks down the total requests, but this is doing it specifically um, uh, at a very detailed level, as opposed to kind of a broad stroke, which the first web page tab is. And then the
Mhm.
final tab that you can do is this JavaScript tab, which uh, shows you your your metrics, and then breaks down the number of scripts that you're actually running and the types of scripts and the domains that they're hitting. So that's kind of an overview of what you get here on the smartboard. The other page that I wanted to talk to, Henry alluded to earlier, which is the records page. The records page is once there. I'll just jump out there. So the records page, not that one. Um, well, I'll take you there. I'll navigate to there for you.
Let's go.
If you choose this and then choose records, uh, this is a list of tests that I have set up. As I said, if you've got hundreds of these, when you can index them and filter them based on these, like name, index, all those labels that we were talking about when we were building it out are there. I know specifically I want to see this one. I want to come over here and see some data points. And this page, for those of you that use web page test, is going to look more familiar than maybe the rest of the Catchpoint portal. So this top screen, while the bottom part loads, is just it's graphically plotting out all the different tests that I've run against the different devices. So that's what you're seeing there. So this is a desktop Chrome test ran at this time frame. This one right here is a Google Pixel test. So, and then it gives you across your different runs some of your key metrics and tells you how they're trending, whether they're good, need improvement. It gives you your film strip view, and then it gives you the waterfall. Now, this waterfall is the same data that's in web page test, and it's just in the style that's a little bit more familiar to Catchpoint portal users. If you want
Absolutely.
to see the web page test style, Henry alluded before, you can do an exit out to web page test by just clicking this button, and it'll take you directly to that waterfall that you are looking at in that page in web page test. And then you can have a little bit more ability to analyze each of the lines in that, which isn't currently available within that waterfall in the page. So If you would like to see this version versus that version, you have the option.
Mm. And of course, this is the waterfall that has made web page tests sort of award winning. Those who are familiar with the waterfall, it is enormously detailed. You could spend, the entirety of your investigative work in that waterfall. If you're not getting what you need out of the details that you're seeing on this dashboard, we're giving you that one-click opportunity to go to look at the original web page test waterfall, and you can get into the entrails that way.
Yeah. And the final thing I want to show you is there's this comparison tool over here, right? If I
Hmm.
click that, it brings me out to a page where I can compare different runs, different tests, different time periods, different devices, and see both. So I've got two selected right now, and I can see both the uh, lined up film strips so I can see visually exactly how they're loading differently. And I also get a chart on the page performance where I see the deltas laid out graphically to say, okay, over this run versus this run, I'm seeing an increase of 132%. And it calls those out so you can say, okay, let's say uh, I've got one test that runs in my staging environment and one test that runs in my production environment. And I'm about to push out a change from staging and I want to see how that performs against my current production environment because I think that I might have changed something that's meaningful and I can run those two tests against each other back to back, see how they run visually, and then look down here for any effect that might have on the 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 different metrics that I'm tracking. So I think that's really powerful. You can add up to 4 different tests in here to look at them side by side, um, just by you hit this add test and then you select one of these nodes and it just adds it right in there so that you can see the specific lined up side by side. But it's a really powerful tool, and I think this, as well as some of the other things that I've shown you, some web page test users may already be doing some of this today, like by building their own charts through our API or some other ways. But this kind of puts it all in one place, gives you that ability to have all that history at your fingertips over time from all the different tests that you've set up to monitor for however long you're monitoring. And then out of the box, you click on a button and say, show me exactly how I've performed on my core web vitals over the last 3 months. I want to see is there a trend in one direction or another, and you can see that really easily through these charts without having to do any building through an API. All you have to do is sign up and set up one of these tests. So I think it's a really powerful tool that adds a lot of value to people that have already been using web page tests and gives you that capability. So that's kind of what I wanted to show you today, Tim.
Awesome. And this almost feels like that, what we released earlier this year is sort of like that no code, opportunity to look at data, because right now we just have to sort of pick and choose what it is that we want to see, compare, and then we're able to kind of take a look at it right there. And it's just a matter of, it's kind of like under, pardon me, understanding how the dashboard operates, and that's pretty much just a little bit of practice. So you're almost limited, literally, by just your imagination. You
Yeah.
know, knowing that you have all the information before you. It's whether or not you pick the right points of data and try to compare them, or just take a look at it yourself, whatever it may be. So this is literally, again, once we're getting back to that moment again earlier this year where we did release the big push out of web page tests, which really enabled people with, again, not heavy coding, not heavy engineering, but good ideas, good imagination, to sort of like look at what could potentially happen if you made particular changes. And we basically brought much of that into the Catchpoint portal. Correct?
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Um, you'd mentioned, a few things that are coming down the pipe potentially. What are some of the first sort of like immediate items that you see sort of being added?
I think some of the stuff that you'll see in the near term that this page right here, we're going to give you more detail behind each of the alerts to get you a little insight as to should I be diving into that one? What's the information behind it? Uh, it will show you some trending over time. So if it's triggered more than once, so that's going to be right here on the smart board. That will be most likely in the next release. One of the things a lot of our customers have already asked for is the Catchpoint uh, portal has its own API,
Hmm.
and they are already utilizing it to kick off some of their other tests, and they
Hmm.
would love to be able to do that with web page test, and so we would
Hmm.
love to be able to deliver that in the short term for them as well. So that's a couple of the previews of what we're looking at for the immediate future.
First of all, I want to thank you for your time today and being able to present this. Like I'd mentioned, folks, we'd sort of quietly announced this a couple weeks ago, and then we all sort of took off and went to Performance Now to sort of meet the community, meet the web page test users who are glad to see us. By the way, we're we could have set up our own sort of office hours, literally. I know I had some very long conversations with some users of web page test by Catchpoint, but also the opportunity to let them know that we had these demos coming. And in fact, I think you ran into some people who had demos scheduled already with you in the future, which was kind of wild because I remember I
Yeah,
ran into
I
them.
would
I'm
have
like,
only met them over the phone, and instead I met them in person. It was really nice.
yeah, it was awesome. One of them came up to me. They're like, "Oh yeah, we have a demo on Tuesday." I'm like, "Really?" And I was like, I think I know who's doing it, and I'm going to introduce you to you. Folks, if you're interested in a personal demo, maybe a bit more detailed, whatnot, I would imagine just give us a tweet, shoot us a little message on Twitter. And if not, if you're a WebPageTest user or even a Catchpoint user right now, I'm sure you've seen some of the emails or reach out and contact some of your representatives, and I'm sure Tom will be more than delighted to come jump on a call with you and give you an extended demo. Uh, Tom, I know you're not super active on Twitter, but should we reach out to you there or what's up?
Feel free to, yeah. No, I
Okay.
mean, it's not usually. You could just email me at Catchpoint too. I mean, I'm just T O'Brien at catchpoint.com is a probably a quicker way to get my attention.
Okay. Or folks, I'm gonna say you could definitely give web page test a little tweet, I guess, if I could find a little Twitter account. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Show.
There you
Bingo.
go.
I mean, we respond as
Oh yeah,
quickly as possible,
follow that.
so give us a follow if you're not already. But if you're curious about more details around the this product, which we're calling the website performance monitoring, definitely let us know and we'll set something up. As usual, you could also find me on Twitter if you have any questions about this and or some of the future projects that we have coming up, because we do have some. Definitely let us know. And with that being said, I think that's pretty much it. Tom, merci bien. Thank you very much for joining again.